Hello, I'm Adam Hadfield.
Hello, I'm Cheryl Hadfield.
And this is Brew
and
Breakthroughs, episode
Number 3.
Featuring papaya today.
He was featured last week as well.
Yeah. So today we've been discussing what we wanted to talk about, and a couple of our conversations in the car and things like that last week or so have been all around routine. And I personally feel routines are one of the most underrated elements of a successful, healthy lifestyle. So we wanted to go into a bit more detail about it today and kind of hopefully be able to give you some tips on how to improve your routine. So what does routine mean to you?
Routine means to me good structure, and I've, for years now, for as long as I can remember, thrive off routine. So if you don't have routine, for example, things can get messy, you can become complacent with things, such as pushing off paying a bill that you need to pay or making a phone call that you need to make that you're just avoiding. So routine is about cementing realistic steps, and we, really stress on that word realistic, and what we used the other week of habit stacking. So, someone who smokes, for example, they go through a full pack of cigarettes in a day, admittedly. We would never, no one should ever say to someone, you need to stop doing that, you need to stop smoking altogether, because what is that going to do in terms of, from your nurse expertise, Adam, what is that going to do to someone if they quit smoking cold turkey?
I think the things like with smoking or drinking, that's not going to work, saying you need to stop. Most people who do smoke or drink heavily know they need to stop. That's why I've banged on for years about saying, you just need to eat healthy. Well, most people that don't eat healthy know they need to be healthy. And it's okay kind of saying that, but they're completely missing out, the person saying that, the steps. Then that could be 10 steps, it could be 100 steps to that person achieving that. So, especially with smoking and alcohol, if you say someone go cold turkey, they will get withdrawal symptoms. In the case of alcohol and alcoholism, that can be sometimes fatal. So it's never a good idea to kind of recommend that. So it's about, let's understand the why of why that's happening, and let's start to look at the routine and start to see where this cycle's come from and why this person's ended up in the situation they're in.
Yeah, because again, going to a doctor's, they'll say you need to quit smoking, instead of just treating the person as a human. They're being treated like a robot, like that's easier said than done. So my guidelines would be, let's reduce that pack by having 2 cigarettes less of that pack. So you're not going to go through the entire pack. You're going to still kind of, and not encourage the person to try and smoke as many of the pack as possible. Just make them aware of what their triggers are making them want to smoke a cigarette, whether they wake up first in the morning and spark it up. So we need to work about the client's behaviour, the person's behaviour around smoking. And in answer to my question, I went off on a bit of a tangent there. Routine means to me peace, because the more routine you can have, the more in control without it being controlling you can have with your own lifestyle, making better decisions, feeling better. So routine for me is peace.
And you raised an interesting point there, and it took me back to a client we had not so long ago who told us, because you mentioned about caffeine, and ironically we're both sat drinking a brew, but they were telling us that they had like 10 brews a day.
We only have to.
And what you mentioned there was the advice that we gave, let's reduce that down to 7 1 week, then 5, then 3. And the person after 6 weeks or so was like, oh my God, the difference. All those slumps had gone, those energy crashes where you then think, I must need another brew. It's because your body's then chasing that high from the drug, because caffeine is a drug. But again, that was just looking at that person's routine. Why was that happening? And what we discovered was that it was due to diet more than anything, to why that person was rushing for the coffees, because they were skipping breakfast, which I know a lot of people do. And we'll get onto it in a minute. It's actually a habit we've started doing this week based off a study, isn't it?
Yeah.
So they were skipping breakfast, and then they were only having like an eat and go lunch, very light lunch, and they were saving essentially all the calories for the evening. So what your body's trying to do then is chase that petrol for its engine. So once we addressed that, we started getting them having, you know, 3 meals before 1 o'clock, which is not uncommon. When you do make these changes, they then didn't have the need for the caffeine in the system, and the change was remarkable in them.
Yeah, it was. Another thing as well, hydrate before you caffeinate. So every morning I have half a pint of water, I'll have some, we'll have apple cider vinegar because that's good for gut health. And I'll have aloe vera juice. Now the reason I have some of these things, I'm not going to go into everything that I have in the morning because what works for me won't work for everyone. But it sets my system up perfectly, and instead of just relying on a cup of tea, I want to get things into my body that it needs first and foremost to get my brain going and then my body going. So the thing we've been starting this week is, Adam was reading another study, that you should be eating as well before having any caffeine. So there's the hydration, so hydrate before caffeinate going in. Then we've both started eating our first meal or breakfast before having a coffee and a tea. So we only have one coffee and two each a day. So this is our second and last brew of the day, which is why we like to share it with you lot.
Yeah, the study was basically saying that if you have caffeine, the data in the studies will show before eating, it spikes your cortisol levels. For those that don't know, cortisol is the stress hormone. So it increases your stress hormone if you're essentially drinking caffeine on an empty stomach. So it says eat before, and it's been, for me, it's been a nice routine because I was getting into a bit of a habit or a routine of kind of not eating for about an hour or hour and a half after I'd woken up. But now, because I love my morning brew, as I'm sure we all do, I literally get up straight downstairs, right, let's get some yogurt, let's get some oats in, whatever it might be for that day. So then I've got my brew to look forward to. So it's just been a nice way of kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone. And you mentioned your morning routine there. How did you get into that?
I originally got into that form of a routine because I started bodybuilding in 2023. So the coach I work with, I still currently work with, her nutrition I just listened to, and you know, she started listening to me and my understanding, learning my body. It wasn't just to take this, take that. I do the same with my clients. You don't just start handing out pills like doctors do. So my coach learned about my body. Foods I responded well to, foods I didn't. So I started cementing this into my routine. And don't get me wrong, I'd wake up in the morning and that fixed mindset would go, oh, I can't be arsed doing this morning. Versus over the past few years, it's been a growth mindset to the point where habits do become autopilot, like the back of your hand. You just start doing it without thinking about it. And that's the same for any habit, any goal as well. If you've got any goal in mind, you can't start thinking, right, I'll get good at this tomorrow.
Goal and routine go hand in hand.
Goal and routine, yeah. You've got to rinse and repeat, and it will get tedious sometimes. But nothing great comes easy, does it? And in order to have a better health, better life, you've got to make some changes that the things are not working for you anymore. You've got to make some form of realistic change.
You hit the nail on the head there when you were talking about time. Any change, any goal, any routine, any habit takes time and it takes patience. And unfortunately, we live in a society that simply doesn't have that. You see it all the time. 7-day shred, 7-day detox, 7-day this, 7-day that.
Shit.
A good solid routine on average will take about 3 months for you to get into.
Yeah,
and you will have
weeks.
days where you fall off that routine, and that is fine. It's not about perfection, it's about progress, as we always say, with the health coaching. So it's about just building and stacking those little habits which become routine, and then that routine will ultimately lead to your goal. And it is the hard part, and I think I did a story on this the other week. If you're ever struggling with, I'm never going to get to that goal, or you're struggling with keeping accountable, keeping that routine going, don't think about the bit in the middle. Think about how amazing that bit at the end is going to feel when you get there and you achieve it. And it will make that bit in the middle seem so much easier to do. And when we talk about routine, we're just talking about your day-to-day life. So I'll give you a typical one that I've heard countless times, I'm sure you have in both of our professions. Someone will get up in the morning, they will put a coffee, tea on, they will then run around getting ready for work, getting stressed, getting the kids ready, all of that. They'll not have breakfast, they'll get out to work, do the school run, get to work wherever, bang, you're in a 9 a.m. meeting, stress cortisol levels going through the roof.
Yeah.
It's now 10:30, you finally go and have something to eat. It might be just something you've grabbed, like a meal deal from Tesco, something like that. You know, your day continues, you then have a late lunch, you know, you don't get any breaks, you're sitting behind a desk, all these things, and you get home and the evening routine starts, sorting the kids' tea out, sorting the washing out, walking the dog, letting the cats out, doing the cat litter, all these things that are normal life. In between all that, you're throwing 5 or 6 cups of tea down your gullet, and before you know it, it's 7 o'clock, you're absolutely knackered, you don't want to work out, you don't want to do anything like that, you just want to sit in front of the telly. And then that's where things like, I'll just get those crisps out of the cupboard, I'll just grab that chocolate.
Or I'll just order a takeaway because I can't be bothered to make tea.
Because, you know, you've done all your bits for the people that depend on you, but you've completely forgotten about yourself. Some people, and I don't want to insult anyone by saying this, will use that as an excuse for not being able to make these changes. I'm just too busy, I haven't got the time. If you improve your routine, I guarantee you will be able to get the time. Wake up half an hour earlier, an hour earlier. I know we don't like getting up early, but trust me, do it. Actually then have that half an hour for you to make your breakfast. Be able to get yourself ready for work without rushing. Then you've not got that stress of getting the kids up and out the door because you're all ready to go. You get into work, you've already had a belly full of food there. Then you can have your second brew, whatever you want to do. But making sure as well, you know, you have a dinner prepped. That's another big one as well. And that can be, and I had a great health coaching consultation with one of our clients the other week, where she told me a great idea she does, and it was almost like a light bulb for her, where she overmade what she was cooking for tea the night before, so then she could use a portion of that for her dinner the following day, because she knew in the morning she wouldn't have time to do it. That's a routine, that's getting a good habit. Stacking it, while I'm making tea, I'll just make a bit more, get in a Tupperware in the fridge, you're good to go then. So all these little things can help. We watched a funny video, I wouldn't ever say or do anything, but it was quite an expletive video, someone talking about kids and not having time and stuff like that online. But his point was, you know, justified, and he was saying, yes, it might get 7 o'clock, the kids are in bed, you're knackered, you don't want to go to the gym. So just put a half an hour circuit video that doesn't require any tools on YouTube. I know you don't want to do it, but it's half an hour. Then you can get to watching your telly, go and have your bath, doing all these things. Because all this exercise, all this routine, all this healthy eating will just improve your overall health, reduce your stress levels, all of this. And it is hard work, but I promise you the end results will be fantastic.
And as well, any videos, don't just type on anything on YouTube. You know, some of you might be sat there thinking, yeah, but I've actually got a bit of a bad back, a bad knees, and my shoulder's bad. You can type on low impact, 10-minute HIIT workout. And even though that stands for high intensity interval training, there are things catered for you. And if you do work with a coach, such as myself, I would expect either me to send you a good video, or you reach out and go, can you recommend any good videos? Of course I can. Because I'm not here to let my clients hurt themselves, even though they're going to be independent trying to make these new habit changes. And going back all the way back to the cortisol, Adam talked about stress levels. Cortisol is good. We need it. It's our natural body. Yeah, it's our natural body clock to get us out of bed in the morning. But the problem in society is at the minute, because we live in such high stress, cortisol is too high at the minute. And people just saying, oh, I'm used to this. I'm just used to being... Why are you getting used to a feeling that doesn't feel good? When there's people out there who can genuinely guide you and help you, and you can actually help yourself. Where there are problems in your mind, that's why I recommend certain clients journal. I've got one client, he already journals before he even started working with me. And he said, I'm very regimented with my journaling.
And that's a routine.
That's another routine, because if you got so much noise going on up here, just get it on paper, you'll read it, you'll go, God, what was I so worried about? And journaling doesn't work for people sometimes who are going to write it. Sometimes I've got one of our health coaching clients as well. She's on affirmations. She doesn't want to listen to them. She doesn't want to write them. So I've figured out this is a person who wants to physically read them. So she's been out and she's bought her own, it's about a pack of 100 affirmations. So she's got an affirmation per day.
And that's it, yeah, everyone works differently.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just all about habits and routine and stacking these little things up, and all of them together, they might seem tiny, but built up, they become bigger and bigger and more impactful. And suddenly your life will be 10 times
So
what it
much
was
better.
before. And just going back to your point there about journaling, and obviously we live in quite a high stress society at the minute for one reason or another. I always talk about a stress bucket. If you've never heard of the stress bucket, essentially you imagine you've got a bucket and each day it's empty and as the day goes on, you know, stresses get added to your bucket, get poured in. So it might be a bill comes through the door, the kid's sick, this is happening, I've got a meeting at work. And what a lot of people don't do is at the end of the day or at some point during the day, they don't open the tap at the bottom of that bucket. And what happens
That
is it
piles up.
continues to pour and pour, and then it overflows, and that's what we call emotional snapping. So I really would highly recommend off the back of this video, if you're going to take anything away and do anything, find half an hour a day to do something for you that empties that stress bucket. Could be going to the gym, doing a home workout, having a hot bath, going out for a 10-15 minute walk, journaling, positive affirmations, reading, playing a musical instrument, gaming, something that is going to help you just feel relaxed and empty that stress bucket.
Well, there's another bucket, I won't swear, but the effort bucket, you know, so if, you know, you can chuck in there, and that's another point of going to do something for yourself. So I have clients 3 nights of the week. I didn't last night. So for me, I went to a dance class. Yes, it was all the way in Bolton, which was a 45-minute drive from Preston. But do you know what? I thought, this is going to make me happy. It's spending a little time me doing something that's not work. So whether you're a mum of 6 or you run your own business yourself, and you think, I just don't have any hours for myself, find them.
Be selfish.
Be selfish. You do have to. We all have. When that's one of the most frustrating sayings. Like, not in a not understanding way, because I do understand life's hard, but we all have the same amount of time in the day as everyone else.
And then it goes back to again
Routine again, and you
change your routine to suit you.
Yeah, if you live in a woe is me sense of feeling, you know, you're gonna kind of have this dark cloud above you that you think it's just not gonna go away. But it won't, until the only person to sort out whatever's going on in your life is yourself. And if you really are struggling with yourself, there's people like me and Adam, health coaches. He's a nurse, I'm a personal trainer. There are counsellors. There are so many talk therapies out there. Charities that will help you. So anyone who's listening to us on this Thursday and you're feeling a little bit lost, please reach out to someone. Even if it's us.
If it's us, we will help you structure that routine. We will explore the barriers in your life, your current structure, your current routine, and we will help you to have those realizations of where things could improve and where things can change, and we'll help you guide and build on that week on week. So we gradually break down your current routine and rebuild a better, healthier one that's going to help you achieve your goal.
Definitely. I said to you before as well, didn't I, before we went to the gym, in my 20s I must have gone through I would never say I've been depressed. I think I have been depressed in my life in my 20s. I've never been on any form of antidepressants or medication for any mood stabilizers. It's just something I've never ever wanted. But looking back into my 20s, I used to live in an annex at my parents' house, and I would get up in the morning. I wouldn't get up in the morning. I'd sleep till about midday, 1 o'clock. Then I was telling Adam before, I would just sit on my couch and I'd watch telly all day. I'd drink probably about 5 or 6 cups of tea. I'd just eat what I want. And my mum must have known that I was in a low place, so she'd keep coming in and asking if there was anything she could do. Am I all right? And back then, even though I must have felt like I was comfortable, I wasn't. I was down, and I wasn't dealing with it. So I was just sitting on the couch watching telly, and that's a very old me. I would never in my whole life ever go back to.
Yeah, but again, what you've just described there was a poor routine that you'd fallen into.
A
Not
very
not something
poor
you
routine.
picked, but you know, you were probably wallowing thinking nothing's going to change. I'm always going to feel like this. Well, it did as soon as you made those changes, and that's where I think sometimes we do need to kind of let go of that. Let's find an excuse for not doing things and actually start focusing on what can I do, not what can't I do.
Yeah.
What can I do to improve this situation? And your outlook will be so much brighter once you've done that.
I think back then it's because I weren't dealing with my relationships with friends, with with relationships with men back then. It's and my way of like, it was almost like a self-sabotage, but in a quiet manner where I could just hide. And it's like when people secret eat, that's another form of a bad habit. And I don't want to label it as a bad habit, but it's a habit that won't serve you any purpose. It's not gonna it's gonna be very malnourishing on your body and your mind. So yeah, I think today, how do you want to close this about habits and routines?
Well, as we said at the top, I think habits and routines are such an underrated part of any lifestyle change, and something that we could all improve. Even people, you know, who seemingly on the outside have this incredible routine, have achieved all the goals, could probably still improve. And as I said, it's about breaking down your current lifestyle, and rather than looking at, well, what can't I do with the time and effort that I've got, and looking at, well, what can I do instead? That's a much more, going back to your point, a growth mindset, you know. So yeah, and just going back to, if you feel like you need some help with that, please do reach out to us. We're more than happy to talk to anyone. We'll give you a free discovery call.
Yeah. And
we can help and support you with our skills and knowledge. But
and one more thing before we go, don't compare yourself to others. That is honestly the thief of joy. Oh, they've got it good.
Especially on social media.
Especially on social media. Oh, they've got more money, they've got a nicer house, they've got this. Just please don't do that.
Focus on
Don't do that. Just start doing new little things that you know make you happy to start off with, even if they're so small. Just something that makes you laugh. You could just put something funny on your phone or on telly, and once you start laughing and start thinking differently about your own habits, it will get easier, I promise.
Well, thank you for watching again.
Thank you for joining us.
Again, as we said last week, if you have any ideas or anything you want us to discuss or talk about more, please drop us a comment.
Yes.
And we'll happily do that. So we will see you next week.
See you next week, everyone.
Bye.